Welcome, everybody, to the Content Profit Show. This is Jeff Herring, your host. And whether you are listening or watching live on the live cast or the podcast, or you're catching this on replay, I'm glad you're here. And we're going to have a great show today with a special guest. We're still enjoying the achievements we made the last 2 Mondays and helping you build your empire out of your articles. And on Monday, we're going to do that again with Viola. We're going to take some of her content and turn it into digital products and maybe even an empire. So welcome, folks. Today I have got, I guess I got to call him my mentor and buddy, Jim Palmer, with us. He's going to talk about something called virtual masterminds. Now, before you shut down your possibilities, you can't do that. Yeah, you can. Okay. And Jim's going to talk to you about how to do that. And my biggest endorsement of his virtual mastermind is that I've been in it for 3 years. Okay. So I'll let Jim tell you a little bit about what they're just coming off of as part of their life adventure. And Jim, buddy, take it away, man. I'm glad you're here.
I'm thrilled to be here. This is my, I work 3 days a week. This is my last call before the big weekend. So I'm happy to spend it with you, my friend. It's great to see you, and you're looking good there.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that. 3 days a week you work. Tell everybody about that and where you worked from up until recently.
Yeah, so the Capt and Jim part is I am currently docked in a home in Westchester, Pennsylvania, but that was my home for the last 5 years. Stephanie and I were just so blessed we traveled up and down the East Coast from New England to Florida 5 times, 12,458 miles. And we just we totally loved it. But, I think our hearts were panging, if that's a word, for family and a little more connection. So Steph's dad, 95, is still here. So you got to figure, I don't know how much longer, So we're taking a break from our floating lifestyle. So we're kind of back in the game. The funny thing is, and I shared this with you, Jeff, is now that I'm in a home office, I'm no longer in the engine room every day. I'm no longer planning our routes and fixing stuff. I have so much more time, and I'm just excited. I'm excited again about business, which I always was, but it's not all sunset and rainbows and boat drinks. You're pretty darn busy when you're living and traveling on a boat full time.
Oh yeah, because you gotta keep everything going, right?
Yeah.
Heck yeah, that makes sense. So how did you?
But you asked about the 3 days, and the little voice says, "Why don't you answer his original question, Jim?" So the three. So it would be 8 years ago. I bought my first boat, which is a 30-foot boat. It was our weekend boat. We just loved it. It's where we really fell in love with the cruising lifestyle. And at that point in my business, my coaching program was doing really well. I still had No Hassle newsletters, the printing business, Success Advantage Publishing. And so I said, you know what? I've been working the proverbial 80 hours for 12, 15 years now. I don't want to do it anymore. So when I got the boat, I said, I'm no longer going to make Friday an available time for people to book calls with me. And so that way I could have a 3-day weekend all the time. I thought, man, I'm living large 3 days a week. Well, I liked it so much, Jeff, that I said, I'm going to take Mondays off too. So all my clients, what happened is I was fairly busy 5 days a week. Then I got busier 4 days a week. Now, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday are the coaching days that clients like yourself can book with. And I'm just busy from 9 o'clock till usually 5:30, except for an hour for lunch. I'm one call after the other. And I'm really tired after 3 days, but then I'm off for 4 days and I love it. And when I started doing that, that really set me up for this floating lifestyle. When Stephanie left her job, which meant we could be location independent, and we decided to live on the boat, that made perfect sense. So as long as I was in a marina Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday with good Wi-Fi, I could do my work. My background looked a little different, but I could do my work. And then we would travel like Friday through Monday if we were traveling. So that's the 3-day work. And just because I'm back at home, I'm still working 3 days a week. I mean, I'm of the age now, Jeff, we're actually exactly the same age. And I'm starting to get Medicare mailings and stuff like that. So I don't want to go back to 80 hours a week.
I know, I totally agree with you. Now, one of the things that we talk about here are content profit models.
Yeah.
And you're a unique one. That's part of why you're able to work 3 days a week, part of why you're able to do the boat stuff. And I've been part of your virtual mastermind now for 3 years. And so talk to us a little bit about virtual masterminds, how they work, what they are, and the benefits of these things.
So in 2009, which is probably about when you and I met at a Glazer Kennedy event,
Yeah.
I think it was that Dan Kennedy said from the stage, hey, and it was sort of an off the cuff thing, but I hung on every word Dan said. He said, by the way, if anybody wants to think of starting a coaching program, or how do you know if there's a coaching program with what you do? And most people are just so busy doing what they do, they don't think of it like, I never went to Coach University, you know what I mean? But Dan said, if people start asking you, how are you doing that? Can you give me some guidance, etc., you may have a coaching program. Now, at that point, my first business had run its course, and I opened No Hassle Newsletters, my first online business, in 2007. Then I created No Hassle Social Media, Concierge Print Mail on Demand, Custom Article Generator, Success Advantage Publishing. I'm leaving one out, but I can't think of it. But in 2009, people are like, well, how are you doing all that? And I said, there's the Dan comment. So I started asking around, folks like yourself that I was, other entrepreneurs of like minds. I said, I'm thinking of starting a mastermind. What do you guys like about it? And what do you don't like about it? Everybody loved mastermind for all the reasons. I won't go into them now. But then what didn't you like? I don't like the travel, Jeff. They told me a lot of times you would travel for a day to whether some far off place, not even that far off, but I was in Pennsylvania, and if the meeting was in Florida, it's still, a 2-hour flight, but you got to get to the airport. It's a whole day of travel, 2 days or 3 days of masterminding, a whole day. It's a 5-day commitment.
Well, yeah, like in the Atlanta area, I mean, it doesn't really matter how close you are to the airport. It's an hour away.
Yeah. And so I created I don't know this for sure, but I think I created the first virtual mastermind. So there was no travel involved. And I set up what I call 20-minute profit seats. A lot of people did hot seats. I didn't like the term because I don't know, people felt like they got roasted maybe. So I coined the term profit seat. And, but other than not being across from the table, we got all folks like yourself come on our group line, and each person gets a turn masterminding. We typically do 5 profit seats in a month. Then we do next month and 5 different people. So, and then they get coaching time with me in between, the group calls. And it just took off, and it's just worked really well. I mean, it's been such a blessing because it really is the driving force that makes this life possible for me.
And so what do you think somebody has to have to be able to start one? Do they have to, do you know everything, Jim? Is that how you start this?
No. So honestly, it's funny. I was doing another interview this morning, and we talked about the mindset piece. Well, in the similar question, did you know you'd be good? I said, no, I was scared out of my wits. Literally before each call, I'm like, oh God, what if I don't know what to say? What if that's a question and I freeze? Okay. Just all that kind of stuff. Right. And, it turns out, kind of like my fear of public speaking, once I get over it, I'm a pretty good speaker. Well, what I figured out is that all the things that I've done in my business up till that point had done a lot of preparation for me to share that knowledge. I did some things that didn't work. I've done some things that did work. I overcame bad money mindset. I know what it means to invest in yourself. I know what it means to get into massive action on multiple fronts simultaneously, not sequentially. I know what it means to be a content marketer on multiple fronts. And, so I was doing the blog, I was doing article marketing. Remember that Easing Articles? That was like one of the original sites. I did all that. I was sharing blog posts. I was doing interviews. I was doing it all. Started my own podcast. I started videos in 2009. And then I started repurposing all of it. So I understand the content piece of it. But what I forget where I was going with that, but
what do you need to get started?
Oh, what do we need to start? So thank you. So as people are coming on and asking all these different questions, I'm like, oh, I got this. And so I start going up, but then I would say, hey, Jeff, you're really good at this. What do you have to say to Brian or, Ann or whatever? And so it really took off. I'm not only am I no longer nervous, I've been doing it for 13 years, but I'm anticipating with excitement these calls because I know this is weird. I've never had a bad call. They're just monumental. And one of the things that makes it great, at least in my group, I'm sure other groups are the same, is we don't just talk business. Every once in a while, somebody will say, I just got to share something. I got to get it off my chest or share with you guys. And they'll go really personal, like I've got money issues, or I'm struggling right now, or I'm dealing with a family member, or it's anything. And then next thing you know, everybody's just like virtually heaping love and comments and camaraderie and sharing. And that just lights me up very, very much. So it can definitely be done virtually. You don't have to know everything. The other thing I'll say, what you don't need a ginormous audience. And in the information that been putting out, I mean, you could literally, I started with 7 members my first year, and then you go from there. You know what I mean? You just start where you are with what you have, and you let it grow from there naturally.
So you could start with 3 people, 5 people.
You could. Now, if I was coaching you, I would say it'd be better to start with 5 than 3. So if you've got 3 paid members, is there anybody in your inner circle or something that you can invite in gratis, or maybe you trade, maybe somebody does something that the video editing, I don't want to do it anymore. Hey, do my video editing. You can get a free membership in my program. So I did that my first year. I only had to do it my first year, but I think out of the 7 members, 5 were paid and I had 2 comped or trading for services. So I think that's a good, there's so many ways that I share, in the program about how to get started and how to make it work.
What do you say to the person that says, because I want to drill on this one, because I know it's what holds people back. The people that say, but I just don't know enough.
Well, first of all, if that's your true belief, I think we should work on your mindset, because here's the thing. If you're going to take money from people and you're going to lead this group, you really have to do it. Now, I'm not saying you have to be, you don't have to be some Tony Robbins figure, but you do have to have confidence that you've had experience that's worth sharing. One of my pet peeves as a coach is you see these people who are going to, first of all, I'm a life coach and they're like 18 years old, or there's somebody who's going to, or there's somebody who's going to teach you how to have a 6-figure or 7-figure business, and they earn $40,000 a year. Like you should have done what it is you're helping people that they want to do. Right. So in my case, I may not be the most eloquent, but I've created multiple successful 6-figure businesses, grew in a large portfolio of businesses, done pretty well. I've overcome, fear of public speaking, put on my own live events. I've climbed my way out of $140,000 worth of debt to be debt free. I know what it means to invest in myself. So all these different things that I've done helps me be a better coach. So it's a combination of, skill, mindset, experience, all kind of wrapped up. And most of the people that I've helped start virtual mastermind businesses have that. They just don't know it. But if somebody's like really apprehensive, like, I don't think I can do this, I can try and help you through it. But honestly, I don't want you to go out and fail, because it's really hard to come back if you launch. And
what you're saying is real important, because if you bring what you do know, your life experience, etc., you only have to be a little bit out ahead of the people you're with. I don't think we've talked about this particular person, but I met this person through Instagram, just going through. And she's a 25-year-old woman, Grace Valentine. Her Instagram is the Grace Valentine. It's worth checking out. And what she does is she works with high school girls and college girls and just graduated college girls. So she's about 3 years out from that last part, right? And what she does that I find so fascinating is on Instagram, you get 10 slides a post, right? And so what she does is she writes mini books, MINI books, on Instagram, and for the girl who doesn't fit in this week, for the girl who's stressed about this, for the girl who whatever. And then there's 10 little pages of advice, okay? And she turns them into books, okay? So she writes mini books on Instagram and traditional books out in IRL in the real world. But she does workshops, she does retreats that fill up, boom, like that. And what's amazing to me, Jim, is she's 25, okay? And she's doing this. And so she has just enough experience of just having lived through it to bring it to bear. So she would be a good candidate to say, well, what do I know?
Yeah.
And she's really transparent about it. She goes, look, I'm a 25-year-old, Honda driving person that also babysits for extra to build this, and I love the transparency, but she's got a following that's incredible.
I believe everybody's is blessed with a God-given skill or talent. And if you can make a business out of that skill or talent and you grow a business to whatever degree, you've got something to share. There was an old expression I learned way back when where it said, a 6-year-old only has to be smarter than the 5-year-olds and the 4-year-olds, right? So sometimes there's a very fine line between the smartest person in the room and everybody else, right?
Right.
One of my clients, a fellow mastermind member, but I helped him start a virtual mastermind group. Bill Warren, Diamond Bill Warren, he runs a jewelry store in a small town in North Carolina. And when I say small, 3,800 people. He's had this store for like 25, 30 years.
Talking something offline, right?
It's a brick and mortar jewelry store in like a Mayberry type town.
Okay.
And he grew this jewelry store to over $1 million in sales. And I said, Bill, you should have a mastermind group. So I helped him coin Diamond Bill Warren's Ultimate Jewelers Mastermind Group. We created and launched that group in 3 weeks' time without a website. And it's today producing over 6 figures in revenue. And every month, Bill gets on and does exactly what I do. Does a virtual call, and he teaches. Sometimes he'll teach for 20 minutes. They'll do a round robin. And what do you get questions about what I'm teaching you? And then they'll do like his version of a profit seat. And his program, I think, is $397 a month or $597 a month. He's got a couple different levels. I think he's got about 60 or 70 people in his group. These are all jewelers who are so admiring of what he's accomplished and also what he's doing. It's not just he's learning how to, he does these online events. And when COVID hit, he was doing his own QVC style events with his cell phone from his store. Yeah. The guy's an animal, and now he's teaching it.
Yeah.
And
that's a beautiful example. Another one last night on Wednesday nights, I go to something called the living room. It's the college ministry at our church. I'm a small group leader. And I was sitting at this table and eating, they feed us before, thank goodness, and Chick-fil-A last night. So, can't go wrong with that.
There you go.
And there's this kid there that I've noticed that just is, quiet, usually off to himself, sometimes sitting by himself. And we was at our table. And I was glad because a buddy of mine that's a small group leader was there. And Jim, he had this little teeny, about this big origami thing, animal, like next to his plate. And so I'm like, all right, what's that? He whips out his cell phone with the support of the small group leader and starts showing me these elaborate, huge origami things,
Oh my goodness.
Dude, I had no idea. How did you get started? Where do you, da-da-da-da. And then he said the key phrase. He goes, yeah, but you can't make a living doing this. And like me later, they said, Jeff, you about came out of your chair.
Yeah. Well, do you remember the Shark Tank where the guy he did kitty drawings or something?
Yeah.
Tell me and they weren't even good. But people said, oh, my cat does this. So he just draws his cartoon cat, not even like a caricature cat. Yeah. And it's with a bow tie on. I mean, it was the silliest thing. You'd be surprised, but you can make a nice living.
Absolutely. And I told him, I said, yes, you can. And I'll be happy to show you how, pal.
Yep.
There was a woman in our GKIC world back in the day. I forget her name, but she was the one who, she was a 6 or 7 figure earner with not corgi dogs, dog paraphernalia. And if you remember, they actually had a yearly corgi dog paraphernalia conference where she made a big chunk of her money. And so origami, 21-year-old origami creators, Diamond Bill Warren, a corgi dog paraphernalia. Folks, if they can do it, take a look at I'm here and taking a look at 2 things. Both your professional experience, Jim, and your life experience. too.
Mm-hmm.
Is that accurate?
You know, yeah, and that's it. And what's interesting to me, and I learned a lesson years ago when I started my first online business, No Hassle Newsletters, a monthly subscription program where we provide content and done for you newsletter templates. And at the time, I think I had about 100 or maybe 90 or 100 subscribers. And I kind of peaked there, but I knew I had a long way to go. And I was feeling a little down. And one of my mentors, I was meeting with him, he said, "Why, do you think you're saturated? Do you think you're like, this is it?" I said, "No." He goes, "Let me ask you a question, Jim." He goes, "Do you think you can find two small business owners in each of the 50 states? Just two." And so now it puts your brain into it. So you think of even Rhode Island, the smallest state, are there two small business owners? Like, yes. So he goes, if you could just identify two small business owners in each of the 50 states, you could double the size of your business. And that tip from a mentor was very eye-opening to me, because it tells me, like, now as it relates to growing your own virtual mastermind, can you find in the entire United States, could you find 10 people, just 10 people who want to learn origami, how to create a business selling your origamis or something like that? So if you can find 10 people, and let's say you charge them $97 a month, well, that's $1,000 a month, right? $12,000 a year with just 10 people. Now, $12,000 a year is not enough to retire on, but it could sure as heck pay down a car loan. You could start putting it away in your 401k.
You know, real good
And,
money when you're in college.
yeah.
And I was gonna pull this out of you if we didn't. You said the thing I wanted everybody to get today. Okay, can you find two small business owners in every state?
Yeah.
You find two blank in every state, and you can do this.
That's right.
And the funny thing about this interview, we set this up a long time ago as I was putting together this podcast, and I had no idea you were doing a thing about virtual masterminds, when we set it up. And here we are in the middle of doing this. And so what I want everybody to get, Sharon says, this is great. You're right, Sharon. I just put this link in the chat for you guys, because what Jim has out right now is a free guide, okay, to all the steps involved in and the advantages of having he calls them lucrative virtual masterminds.
Because why wouldn't you want it to be lucrative, right?
The poor man's virtual no. So the link, if you're listening, folks, is the contentprofitshow.com/virtual. The contentprofitshow.com/virtual. You'll always get it in the contentprofitshow.com live cast, and then on the separate thing we do about this, it's right here for you. And I've read it. I've written articles about it. But tell folks a little bit about why they should get that, Jim.
Well, once they go to that link, which I think is going to take them to the guide that I wrote, it's like a 12-page guide, and it's not some fluff. I literally show you some of the things you need to do, not everything, but some of the things you need to think about to have a virtual mastermind. I think there's even 2 or 3 examples I put in there of, suppose 1, 2, or 3 at the small side, you could earn this. I kind of just did that with the origami guy, and then the medium. So I even show you some examples about how you can start. So so many people, Jeff, they think, I don't want to start until I can make 6 figures. Well, you may not make 6 figures unless you're pretty big, but you can start now and grow it over time. So the report is free, right? Go to the link Jeff gave you, and you can read up on it. If it wets your whistle, so to speak, if it tickles your fancy, you're the content guy, I'm sure you come up with better phrasing than that, then I am offering a program. It's actually going live as we're just now going live. I'm sure if people are listening after the fact, it'll be up for about a week, but we have a program where you can work with me and I'll teach you how to create your virtual mastermind group. So it's a pretty cool opportunity.
It's a very cool opportunity, and I will add, because I checked it out today, it is very reasonably priced. Okay, this can work for you guys. So go to the contentprofitshow.com/virtual, get that free guide, and then there'll be some links in there, and they'll follow up with you, about the work you're doing. Time for us to wrap up here, Mr. Jim. What will be the I almost said your final words, your last words for these folks about why they ought to do this and why they can.
All right. So what I'm going to tell you actually has nothing to do with virtual mastermind group, but it's more of a concept for small business owners to grasp. If you look at highly successful, and I would say high revenue earning entrepreneurs, the vast majority of them have multiple streams of revenue. They don't count on just one revenue source that they push this ball up a hill and get it to keep growing. You have multiple streams of revenue. So I already told you, so I had no hassle newsletters. Well, today, I'll just go in today's terms because some of them aren't up anymore. But I have no hassle newsletters. I have concierge print, mail, and demand, Success Advantage Publishing, and a number of different courses now, including this one. But I also have my virtual mastermind. Now, concierge print, mail, and demand, I couldn't retire on it. It didn't even make enough money some months to put 400 gallons of diesel in my boat. But it's one of those things. It's one of the revenue funnels that when you add them all up together, it makes a nice living. And by the way, one of the things, and I believe I include this in the report, one of the reasons you really want to have a virtual mastermind is it's going to enhance and elevate and push your current brand. So if you have a mastermind group, you may have some mastermind members from outside your program, and they may be interested in other things that you have. So like in Jeff's world, the content programs and the trainings that he offers and the Medium stuff. And so the other piece of it, well, thank you, Sharon, unless she's talking about you, but I'll say thank you anyway. It's the end of my day. I can't help it. And then by the same token, the last 2 members to join my Dream Business Mastermind, Jeff, came from No Hassle newsletters. So 2 folks joined my newsletter program. I always extend an invitation. Hey, I'd love to help you get started if you have any questions. I even offer them a free phone call with me, and I'll give you a half hour and show you how you can use your newsletter to build your business. Well, Jim, being the savvy entrepreneur he is, I do this call and I do give him some really good stuff about their newsletter. But I say, tell me about your business. What's working? What's not? Hey, have you ever thought of doing this? One of the things you can do is this, which, by the way, it's been great meeting you. If you ever want to, get involved in a more formal relationship or have more coaching, like I kind of gave you in the last 10 minutes on a regular basis, I'd love to invite you to join my mastermind. So what I'm saying is multiple streams of revenue is good. You want to have that. And the other thing is different revenue streams can sort of feed off and play off of each other, but they all should elevate your main brand. So me, it's Captain Jim Palmer, the Dream Business Coach. So if you're at No Hassle Newsletters, it's talking about that. Success Advantage Publishing. Oh, Jim, Captain Jim Palmer, the Dream Business Coach, owns Success Advantage Publishing. He's published these books and about 40 or 50 other books for his clients. It all works together, Jeff.
I love that. It's about having a lot of tools in your tool bag. And I just wrote down the letters AGTI, which stands for always give the invitation.
That's it.
You always give the invitation, folks. All right, Jim,
that's right.
For spending time with us, folks. Go to thecontentprofitshow.com/virtual to get Jim's free guide, and there'll be ways to work further with him there. Thank you, sir. We're going to head out of here. And folks, check you on Monday, where we take Viola's content and turn it into digital products, maybe even an empire. Chat soon.
I feel like I'm in the lobby of a hotel.
That's the